Well, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in this world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, 30 Minutes to a Private Cloud. We have got a unique and will be lots of fun webinar today, but before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go over real quick. First of all, today's webinar is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of today's event, please know that within about an hour or so following the event, we will have the webinar available on demand. We'll be sending out a link by email to everybody who registered. We also will be having audience questions near the end of the event. So if you have a question for any of our panelists today, feel free to go ahead and use that control panel to put in your question, and we'll take probably about 15 minutes or so before the end of the event, and we'll go over those audience questions. Okay, today's webinar, 30 Minutes to a Private Cloud. This is something different. We're doing kind of a how-to today. ZeroStack is going to demonstrate how easy it is to stand up a cloud. And the way they're going to do this is with our two panelists today. Kaylee Sherman, who's a social media manager at ZeroStack, is actually going to be the one who stands up a cloud. She's going to be assisted by David Vitera, who's Director of Systems Engineering at ZeroStack. It's going to be lots of fun, and I can't wait to see the shenanigans that go on during that. And speaking of shenanigans, we have a special MC today for the actual event, Steve Garrison, who is the Master of Cloud Ninja at ZeroStack. Welcome, Steve, and welcome, Kaylee, and welcome, David. I hope you guys all have fun. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thanks so much, Charlene, and thanks. I'm proud to be the Cloud Ninja Master today. I don't even know what that means, but it does sound good. So let's rock and roll. Let's go to the first slide and talk about the agenda so everybody has expectations set on how we're going to break this down and unpack this, this call and make sure you guys leave some value-added information. So first, I think no one would really feel good if we just dived in and showed you a bunch of GUIs without explaining what is the exact setup. So David V is going to set up the setup and give us a real brass tacks view of what's behind the curtain so there's no mystery whatsoever. Then he's going to guide Kaylee, a first-timer at building a cloud. I know she's going to ask for a promotion and a bigger salary after this today because she's going to, be a cloud admin, but we're okay with that at ZeroStack. We're all about career advancement. And then we're going to talk about building some applications and actually deploy something interesting so you can see the whole life cycle idea of what we actually provide. So with that, let's go to the next slide and turn the call over to David Vitera, who's going to walk us through, again, what's behind the curtain.
Thanks, Steve. So it's pretty straightforward what we've got behind the curtain. Maybe behind the curtain's a little too mysterious and sneaky, but we've got an excellent product from Supermicro. It's their 2RU Fat Twin platform. I went ahead and saved some time and loaded our operating system on there. We call it the ZCOS operating system. It's a very lightweight install, and then I've taken care of all of the network access, so Kaylee doesn't have to run cables. We don't want to give her too much of a raise, just a little raise.
Thanks, David.
So let's talk about some of the next stuff that we're going to be doing, right? So we talked about what's the on-premise stuff. That's the stuff down there in the lower right. The cloud software is on there. The stack is ready to go. So now we're going to have Kaylee go into the SaaS portal and do all of the cloud infrastructure deployment, which is actually building all of the services required to make a fully functioning private cloud. That's the software-defined networking, the software-defined storage, all of the hypervisors set up, and then create an account and start building stuff out.
All right, are we ready to build the cloud?
We are ready to go.
Okay.
I can't wait.
I'm excited as well.
So what she's going to do now is bring up a web browser and go ahead and sign in with her super secret email and password.
Okay, let me pull it up. It's just my email or username?
For this one, it's just your username.
Okay.
And oh, nope, actually it's your email address. Sorry. That's my fault, folks. I can't read my own instructions.
I love it, David. You're setting up the cloud admin to fail on step one here, but that's part of the fun.
All
Steve,
right.
I don't want to ask for too much new money. So here we go. So we need to create a new region.
All right. Click this.
Yep. So let's. Oh, look at that. There's our 4 Supermicro hosts ready to go. So let's go ahead and select all of those guys because we want all of those servers to participate in our private cloud. So go ahead and hit next for us.
Okay. Here we go. So what is this now?
Good question. So remember when I talked about setting up all of the networking required and all of the software-defined storage? This is the networking setup. So I've got some addresses to enter for you. Now, 4 of these address ranges are 100% for the ZeroStack solution itself, so they can be completely made up in fake numbers. And then the very last one is a load-balanced IP address that we can do all of the API calls and all of the CLI management if we were doing some dev tool stuff.
Okay, and these are the numbers you provided me earlier?
That is correct.
All right, I'll start putting them.
And again, the nice thing here, folks, is these are 100% internal addresses. They don't have to be real. It's just for cluster communication. Going with the nice cut and paste technique. I like it.
A lot faster.
A lot faster. And then the last address she'll enter in is the load balance service address. Again, we do everything in a load balanced fashion across the 4 servers. So that way, if one server should go offline for some reason, somebody pulls the plug, whatever happens, operations can continue and run.
All right, is that it for this page?
That's it for that page. You are now a network design engineer.
Awesome. Okay, next.
All right, next, let's talk about storage. So as these Supermicro boxes have multiple storage options in them, both HDD and SDD, we have the option to choose and deploy those in multiple different pools for multiple different problems to solve. On the SSD side, we may want some that are just extremely fast and high IOPS, but we also may want to have some reliable SSD, and we can change it and adjust those ratios as we need to. We can also enable object storage to use an S3 style interface to back up object-based stuff. But for this, let's go ahead and uncheck the object storage because we're not going to be using that for this time.
Ooh, okay, all right.
And we will just go with the defaults. Again, it's all software defined, so it's a configuration that we can change to best serve our needs. But we don't really need to, and the defaults are fine. So we can just go ahead and hit next to define some region information. Okay, so here's where we're going to want to create a region. And this is really important if we have multiple different locations that we're managing through the ZeroStack single pane of glass solution. So let's give this region name. Let's call it LA.
Okay.
Because we're going to pretend that this box is in LA, and let's call it LA01 for the availability zone. As we may have multiple different cages, we want to be good and define those things across multiple different cages. All right, so that's it for that step.
Okay, next.
And here's where we're going to set up a username account and password for the solution. This is the initial admin account.
All right, so I just type in admin?
Yeah, let's just use admin.
Okay. And then for email?
Let's use sales@zerostack.com. And then you can pick a password as long as you don't forget it.
Okay, got it. All right, what is this?
Excellent question. This is the summary page. So this is telling us exactly what we're doing. We're adding 4 servers into this cloud. Down below that, it's going to tell us the workload limits and the network configuration stuff we're doing, right? So that's all the networking information you added. Below that, it's going to give you a storage summary and say we're going to break up the storage that we have amongst those 2 drives into 4 separate pools, both replicated and non-replicated. So we'll have 4 different storage types to build virtual machines on. And at this point, right, if we caught something that we didn't like, we could go ahead and change it and adjust it. But everything looks great to me, so let's go ahead and hit Build My Cloud.
All right, that's it. That's exciting. It's a lot simpler than I. Awesome.
I love it. Well, thanks for doing that, Kaylee. That seems pretty cool. So, you know, I'm going to be a bit of a curmudgeon-y panelist here, David, and just challenge you a bit and say, so, okay, we did a little networking. I saw that with the IP address assignments. We did a little bit of compute there, and maybe some storage was going on as well. But is it that simple? Is it really just a storage network compute convergence play here, or is there a lot more going on? Help us out with that.
Yeah, so from the administration side, right, you're at this point, you're done, you're going and getting some coffee. But what's happening behind the scenes, Steve, is we're standing up a hypervisor on every one of those servers. We're also allocating a clustered storage resource with those 4 pools to all of those servers. And then we're spreading the software-defined networking schema across all of those servers. And then we're clustering all of the resources together. So not only do we have 4 total servers to use for virtualization, but we have high redundancy and failover because everything is in a clustered solution. On top of that, we're unpacking our analytics and high availability services, as well as backup services, snapshotting services, alerting and monitoring. So there's about 15 things that are going on behind the scenes. The nice thing is you don't have to worry about how to deploy them. We take care of that for you through the SaaS portal. It's orchestrating, building all of those services and bringing all those services up.
So this is the idea that we're bringing together that SaaS model with the on-prem asset control and protection that governs, and I think that's part of the story that you covered, but just to reiterate that. So, well, good. Look, we know this bar is going to go on for about another 10 minutes. That's what we're assuming. So, Kaylee, why don't you put us back to the slide with all the logos on it?
All right.
Because I want to ask David to help us understand how, because again, we're hoping that we've got some developers on the call, or some managers of development teams, or even some IT folks who are trying to figure out, is this a win-win tool for their organization? So we'd probably like to show this slide a lot, and we have these logos all over our website, David. So again, why don't you walk through folks who are trying to understand what we can do for them, and why, in fact, are we having all these logos on this slide?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. So I'm going to start with some of the complex ones up in the upper left corner. MySQL, Postgres, those things are fantastic tools, and they work really well. The biggest problem is configuring them consistently and deploying them on demand when a developer wants to play with them. My favorite example of all is always a multi-node Hadoop cluster. Somebody always wants to use a multi-node Hadoop cluster, but it is extremely cumbersome to set up and run. What we've done at ZeroStack, Steve, is taken all of these fantastic tools and bundled them into easy-to-deploy templates. Now, these are just some of many that can be had, and of course, customers can create their own templates. So if they wanted to deploy Postgres in conjunction with Hadoop and say maybe, I don't know, Jenkins as well to orchestrate and control it all, they can simply do that, bundle that all together. That way their development team can one-click deploy these things and be up and running and get their job done in a safe environment that they're not worried about data leakage.
I like that. I think that's one of the things that people want is the private workspace concept where they can craft their own area, define what works for them, use the tools they're comfortable with, and not bug anybody else, right? Or cause somebody to be a noisy neighbor, so to speak. I think that's the jargon. Yeah, just a reminder, folks, if you do have a question, use the questions tool. You can send a question to myself or all the panelists. We're happy to respond live. We do not need to wait till the end of the webcast. So David, why don't we share also a little bit of a story? We do have customers who are doing things like Docker Swarm, and we were just talking about that before the call. I don't see Docker Swarm here. So how would a customer go off the range and do something custom and bring in something that is not necessarily an open source piece that's already in our App Store environment?
Absolutely. We have a simple import function to do that. The other very cool thing is you can take some of the templates that we have in there that are freely available and modify them to your liking, which we see quite often, right, Steve? So some folks like our multi-node Hadoop, but they want to change configurations of it. And you just go in and edit the template. It's very straightforward to do, and then off you go to the races. Is easy to set up anything else that you don't see pictured here in the solution. Let's say I'm an Oracle shop and I want to do a whole bunch of dev on an Oracle database. Obviously, Oracle would not be very pleased if we were handing out their software freely, but as an Oracle customer, you would be absolutely free to upload Oracle stuff into our application template deployment solution and kick that off as many times as you're licensed to. Awesome, that's great. And then we know that template schema is not that different from any other schemas or API sets. So people coming, in fact, it's Heat, right? So if you have experience with Heat, you can come to the table with that. Otherwise, we see people pick it up pretty quick. Just one more thing about the storage network compute side too. We did a webcast recently with Nexena, who does software-defined storage, and we make claims about being integrated with Nimble and, in fact, any OpenStack API-friendly storage box. And I think the reason we've been asked to do that is that customers do want to leverage existing storage assets many times for developers. Can you talk to that a bit, David? Just why we do that, how we do that, and again, how easy or hard is that integration? Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very straightforward from an integration standpoint. We just simply point to the storage provider, and they have a list of their credentials and any sort of LUN, or if it's a file share we're pointing at, and then we can simply add that as an extra storage pool. We do that to give customers the ability to again leverage that existing investment, right? If there's nothing wrong with that piece of storage, you're happy with it, stuff's already there, why get rid of it, why move it? Just because we're hyper-converged doesn't mean you cannot use existing storage. And in fact, most of our customers are in a hybrid mode where they use both the storage that's provided by the servers as well as the external storage. And there's a good reason to do both.
Excellent. Investment protection is what some people like to say, but I'm just old school. It's just nice to make leverage the stuff you have that you're already trained up on and add more value to it, right?
Absolutely.
Well, how long have we been? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, David.
No, you're absolutely right, Steve. I was just saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, there you go. Or is it fixed, don't broke it. But anyway, so let's see. How long has it been? How long have we been waiting? I wonder how much, if we go back to the status bar, it's not linear, so that's not a good way to judge, but I haven't been keeping track of time. Why don't we go look at the status bar? Let's take a look. Let's just see, because I know it's going to take us about 15 minutes, and we've been chatting for a while. All right, so we're still in the middle here, but again, this could be another 5 to 10 minutes. While we're still waiting, David, is your tool handy? Because we have a second environment set up, knowing that this would take time. I think it'd be fun to show people some functionality before we do the Hadoop environment build. Because I think a lot of people talking to me about API-driven infrastructure in particular. APIs can be very complex. There's proprietary APIs out there. And then, of course, we tout our system being based on OpenStack APIs or RESTful APIs, so we want to tout that we're open and very compatible with a lot of open systems. Does it make sense to jump to your console real quick while we're waiting and show some of that?
We absolutely can. We can go through what an application build looks like, as well as looking at the API endpoints that are set up automatically throughout the system.
Okay, I'll hand off the presenter rights to you, David.
Fantastic.
There you go.
And everybody should be able to see my screen.
getting there. There we go. It's always a little messy changing presenters on a webcast, folks, but there we go. We did it.
Yeah, we like to live dangerously here, Steve. You know that.
Absolutely. That's the way Cloud Ninjas roll.
All right, folks. So what you're seeing here is a system that I've had up and running for quite some time. It's my personal sandbox. What we're seeing here is the administration dashboard. What's going on here is just telling me all the critical things that I would be concerned about as an administrator. Resource utilization, resource exhaustion, as well as monitoring or any health issues. What Steve was asking about is some of the application deployment stuff, as well as some of the API stuff. The nice thing about the ZeroStack system is it's multi-tenant by default, right? So I'm starting off in the most secure scenario I can possibly be, and isolated as well. I'm going to drop into my personal business unit here. I've got some fun things going on in here. I got a couple of different projects that I play around with, but let's go look through one that I deploy Hadoop in all the time. And what Steve asked and was talking about is the constant desire and demand to do things automatically through APIs, not having to log into a UI and do things from a programmatic standpoint. The great thing is at ZeroStack, everything we do is API driven. And every time I pop into something, I get my full API endpoints, my project file, my certificate file. Again, doing things in a secure manner is very important to us, so everything has a security certificate. And if let's say I'm not the best API guy, I'm just learning, we list all of the documentation for the API and the CLI library everywhere we go. That way you're not hunting for documentation. But the APIs are ever present, and they are, as Steve mentioned, OpenStack APIs. They're not something proprietary. So if you're already using those in your environment, you can just swing them and point them to us, and you're off and running to the races. And let's go over and look at an application deployment real quick. I'm going to do a real quick Hadoop one. I've already got one deployed, but I'll do another one. It's very, very simple to deploy an application. We just simply click on Deploy App, and then we see the list of applications that are already in my library. As we can see, we've got Puppet Master, Jenkins, WordPress, MySQL, Cassandra, NoSQL, LAMP, DevBox, so on and so forth. And again, I can continue to add these as I need, or if an administrator has allowed me access to them, every time they give me permission, a new one will show up. But Hadoop is my favorite because it is a very complex install that we've simplified greatly. So I click on Next. First thing it's going to ask me for is the name, and I'm super lazy, so I cut and paste. It's going to ask me a couple of questions because I've allowed it to do so. It's going to ask me how big I want the boot and the data volume, as well as what type of storage do I want to put the data volume on. Again, these are variables that can be muted in or muted out. I'm going to go with a medium large size, and then it's going to ask me for what OS I want. I've locked this down to saying this Ubuntu image is the only one I've allowed. I'm going to select a security key. Number of nodes, again, a variable. Minimum is 3, but I can go up to 500 if I had the resources to do so. I'm going to put it on a private network and also give it access to the outside world. Again, all of the software-defined networking stuff, Kaylee had already set up, so this is simple click, 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 go. And then I hit deploy. And now all the things that we're going to see on the backside of this is it creating volumes, setting up security groups, creating networking that needs to be there, as well as creating the virtual machines. So if I go over here to block storage and do a refresh, we can see I have a whole bunch that are already available and a whole bunch that are creating. And if we were to sit through this process, which takes about 5 to 10 minutes, we would see a successful create of the Hadoop resource.
All right, David, I have some exciting news.
What do you got?
About 5 minutes ago, I didn't want to interrupt, but the green bar jumped to the end and the cloud finally converted.
Oh, we missed the climactic moment. Let's do it all over again. No, I'm kidding. But hey, we'll do that next time. So let's go back and see. So we missed that transition, but sorry about that, folks. But there it is. That's the problem with playing with two consoles. But yeah, it's all good. David, take over. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so let's actually have her log into that. So go ahead and click on LA and log in.
All right. Is this my...
That is your cloud, and we just need to hit the little X button there because I think you typed in admin, not admin1.
Okay.
And we need to change the region to LA. Excellent. And then that's going to be admin.local.
Okay.
And then the username should be admin.
Oh, okay, I remember.
And here we go. So now while it initializes the environment, you guys are going to notice that it looks a little bit different from the one I just showed you because it's fresh and brand new. There's going to be no monitoring information. There's going to be no consumption of resources, but it's going to be a fresh cloud ready to go so that she can start building virtual machines and workloads right out of the box. There's no other things needed to be done. Just ready to go, Steve.
Well, this is her personal workspace versus your messy room that you've been playing with for years, David, and probably a lot of junk in there. But we won't comment on that. The Kaylee's is nice and clean.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome.
And yeah.
Ready to build some stuff. I love it. Well, look, I think at the end of the day, we accomplished this entire event here. It is now 26 minutes after the hour, after Charlene kicked this off. It's pretty amazing. So hopefully people do believe that we did this, number one, because it's true. And if you want to see it again, folks, live and recorded under a different environment, but still the same process, you can go to our YouTube channel, and you'll see that. It's one of our choices of YouTubes that are available. Let's go to the thank you slide and see if we have any bold questions from the group on the webcast.
We've got a lot of questions that have come in so far. Do you want me to go through them? Or
Let's
Steve,
do that.
do you want to go through them?
No,
okay.
No,
right.
Go ahead and read it to me, Charlene. Go ahead.
Awesome,
Let's
awesome.
take one.
Okay. Okay, Jordan is asking, what's the minimum processor type that you can install with a you can install the ZeroStack solution on? Easy for me to say.
Excellent question. I'll take that one, Steve. Our hardware compatibility list is pretty easy. It's any Intel hypervisor capable CPU. You can go to our website and grab the minimum specs. They're pretty generous. I generally say any virtualization server within the last 4 years, we will 100% support.
Okay, great. Next question is from Carrie, who asks, do you have a robust API? I have a custom application that communicates with orchestrators to do what we want. Would ZeroStack be an option to fit into this type of model?
Absolutely. So anything you can do with an API call, you can do to us. So building virtual machines, deleting virtual machines, changing configurations of them, pretty much anything you can think of. Our APIs are 100% covering everything that the solution is capable of doing.
All
There's
right.
no API gap.
All right, I'm sure Carrie is really happy to hear that. So, okay, our next question is from Ramesh, who asks, can you talk about your OS? Is it any Linux flavor?
The base OS of the ZeroStack solution is based on Ubuntu, but it's a highly modified and stripped down version of Ubuntu.
Okay, great. Let's see. The next question is from, and I apologize if I kill this name, but Casil, I think it is asking about Docker Swarm. Does ZeroStack provide a simple way to provision Docker Swarm?
You absolutely can do so through the application templates.
Okay.
In fact, we have customers doing that, so that's one of the reasons I brought it up, because in fact we get that question a lot, Charlene. What's in the App Store are all open source templates, but there are a lot of solutions we haven't brought in yet, where we don't have everything in the world in there, and people want to customize and bring in things that might need a license. And I think there's a question coming up on that, so let's just keep punching through these questions.
Okay, great. Another question from Jordan. Can I connect my existing free NAS iSCSI disk array?
You absolutely can. The question will be, does it have any of the OpenStack offloads to make things run faster? If it doesn't, that's not necessarily a problem. It will work, but if it has Cinder integration, that's even better.
Okay, great. Next question is actually one that's probably been answered by the other questions, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. A.R. Raman asks, is ZeroStack an open source cloud that can be installed into a commodity hardware?
Yes, in fact, we are 100% based on commodity hardware. There's not a single piece that is required that is not commodity based.
Okay, great. Valerie is asking, and it's a little broken up, so I may have to kind of reconstruct this here. Let's see, he's asking, what infrastructure is consumed? Is it based on already existing data centers and services like AWS or Azure, or do you have another solution for this? I think I got it right.
So I'll try to answer it. I don't quite grasp the question, so I apologize. The solution is two pieces. One is the on-premise piece, which would, in this case, was the Supermicro Fat Twins we talked about. Those sit in a customer's data center or a service provider data center of their choosing. And then the other side of it, which what we saw Kaylee interacting with, is the SaaS-based portal, which is 100% run in our own data centers. We use no other public cloud offering to run those services. It's 100% us.
Okay, great. I think that probably answers the question then. Okay, we have a couple more questions here, but I do want to remind the audience that there's plenty of time left. If you guys have a question for David or for, well, I guess you could ask Kaylee a question too, but I'm not sure if she'd want to answer.
Don't forget Steve. Come on. I want to get a question too. Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask Steve anything, and he'll probably answer it too. So that's maybe not such a good idea. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the questions. Okay, AR is also asking, can I download the ZeroStack image and deploy it on my laptop?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason, let's just clarify that, the reason for that is that the operating system piece has to go on to servers somewhere. So it really isn't completing the solution, right, to have it on your laptop. But a lot of professionals like to have a virtual machine environment on their laptop and try software out. For us, the easiest way to do that is to go to our website immediately, click on the upper right-hand side that says Test Drive Now. What we do is set up a virtual environment for you, and it's not even virtual. It's a living, breathing cloud instance that Kaylee created that we carve up and give you a business unit. At no cost, we encourage people to try for free and become a cloud admin. And from that exploration, we decide there's more interest from the customer, and we move forward with an on-site proof of concept.
All right, great. Kaylee, there's a question for you.
Oh no.
How did it feel as a non-tech person to do this so easily?
It was exciting. I was probably 70% really nervous that I was going to break the cloud. So it was really exciting to see how simple it was for me to actually do it.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Let's see. I think we have one or two more here. Okay. Carrie is asking another question, and I'm hopefully that you guys will kind of understand it. It's simply building isolated networks. I guess the ZeroStack maybe is it appropriate for that as well? I don't know.
Yes. So that's the great thing with software-defined networking in our solution is is you've got so many networking options that are easy to manage. You can create multiple isolated networks, and then if you need to connect them together at some other point in time, you can do so, or you can keep them completely isolated. The other option, of course, is to connect them out to the rest of the company network. Again, the brilliance of the software-defined networking solution is you get to do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're getting the functionality that you need. If you want to create a whole bunch of virtual machines and keep them on an isolated network forever, you can absolutely do so. If you want to develop them on a isolated environment and then prove them out and then connect them into the company network through, say, a software-defined router, you can do that. Or you can take those workloads and then completely move them onto the network. So you've got lots of fun options there that are drag and drop, easy, click, and connect to go.
Okay, great. Okay, the next question is from Zafrul, who asks, do you have any recommended hardware for ZeroStack? I know you've mentioned that it's pretty much industry standard.
It's commodity hardware. Obviously, we use Supermicro for this particular one, but we work with just about every vendor that there is.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's a pointer again. If that person wants to go to our website, click on the support tab, click on knowledge base, and right on the top of that page is the specifications for a minimum viable hardware requirement. So they can see if they've got something dusty in the closet. Is it too dusty? We'll let you know by just reading the performance requirements. And if it's not too dusty, again, that could be something that we could leverage as part of their proof of concept. So we're happy to get people to leverage existing assets whenever possible. And just to add, again, as you explore our website, you'll see that we've made announcements with Dell and HP, and we did a very similar webcast about a month ago with Lenovo as well. So as David said, yeah, a lot of customers come to us and ask that question. We like to keep it simple and without promising everything. But again, that's why that documentation is available on our knowledge base.
Okay, great. All right, questions keep coming in, which is awesome. So next question is from Mohit, who asks, in OpenStack, we use Nova Service for infrastructure as a service. And how is it different from EC2 and Amazon?
Well, EC2 and Amazon use their own, which is proprietary, whereas Nova is open source, meaning anybody can see it, manipulate it, and code to it. So the statement that we were talking about, where we keep our APIs open and continue to leverage the open source community. The problem with an Amazon, if they decide tomorrow to change their API sets, you have to retool everything. Whereas open source is generally tries to continue to make things compatible, not only with older stuff, but continue to make them compatible going forward.
Okay. Great. Next question from Osman, who, so let's see, he asks, what connectivity options are available to connect direct to the ZeroStack cloud from the customer data center?
Actually, it's whatever carrier you're using today. It's a very, very small bandwidth requirement over port 443, which is SSL. So there's very, very little requirements there.
Okay. Great. A couple more questions here have to do with licenses, trials, who to contact. So
Sure.
I'll dive right into those. One is, how much is a developer license?
A developer. So if you buy the software solution, there's two different prices. There's a price for the software, and then there's a price for the bundled appliance. So some folks don't like to maintain hardware themselves, so they might buy the bundled solution from us. I'm not, thankfully I'm a tech guy. I don't have the street prices with me, but to answer that question better, the best way to get a real answer is to fire off an email to sales@zerostack.com. One of our fine sales representatives will let you know the pricing.
Okay, I think that probably answers Carrie's question
Yeah,
as
Steve
well.
here, Charlene. I just want to add to that again, it goes back to that test drive button. We really want people to know that if they click that button, fill out the form, within an hour they'll get credentials at no cost to play. It will help them understand the GUI more fully, and from that, they will absolutely be talked to by a sales rep as well, because the pricing question gets back to scale, and as David pointed out, how you want to deploy it. We don't want to be too cagey on the phone about that, but if you're used to buying software packages, you're used to looking at $1,000 or $2,000 a month kind of thing for a base system. We're very much in the ballpark on that for one-off, but obviously the more you buy, it gets much more into a negotiation about scaling and all that good stuff. But first, again, let's not get the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Test drive now or reach out to sales. We're happy to throw credentials at people and let them log on the tool.
Okay, well, along with that, Srini is asking if there is an option for a trial to give it a try, and then how long would the trial period be?
Oh, well, for the test drive, we give you 30 days. For when we do an actual on-site POC where we send software to you and help you install it on your own environment, that can be negotiated, but typically it's about 30 days as well.
Okay, great. And then can you tell us the email again if somebody wants to get more information, who they can contact? What's that email address?
Sales@ZeroStack.com.
Awesome. All right. All right. So those are all of our questions. If the audience has any more questions for either David or Steve or Kaylee, please go ahead and get them in. We do have a couple of minutes left. If we don't get any more in the next minute or so, then we'll go ahead and close it down. But this has been probably one of the more interesting demonstrations that I've seen in the webinars, and I think a lot because it was very simple to follow along, and I was watching and thinking, well, geez, I could do that, and if I can do it, anybody could do it. So.
Well, hey, Charlene, we're doing another one of these in a month. We could always bring you on over. Don't be worried about it. You're not going to be embarrassed, and you get to be a cloud ninja afterwards.
Yeah, well, I think I leave the ninja stuff up to you, Steve, because you've earned the moniker. I'm not there yet, but thank you anyway.
Yeah. Well, we do have fun. I've set up many of my own POCs here at ZeroStack. We all believe in, picking up the broom when there's trash on the floor, or building a cloud when a cloud needs build, right? No job is too big or too small. But yeah, it's part of the startup life. You know how it goes.
Yeah,
but no, I've been really impressed. I think it's really great for an audience to ask a ton of questions, and that just gets us fired up because we now know we're engaging with people who have interest. So thank you so much, all you people out there who did that. I'm going to make a big claim here and say, Kaylee, thanks so much, but don't ask for a raise. And David, thanks for your wonderful coaching. You're a great teacher. Charlene, thanks so much for hosting us. I think unless we see a new question, we should wrap it up and let everybody get back to their day.
Yeah, great. I do want to remind everybody who is on the webcast, maybe who came in late or missed part of it. We did record this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on demand in a bit. So check your email for a link to the recording on demand, and the event will also be the recorded event will also be on the DevOps.com website. Also, check DevOps.com for other upcoming fabulous webinars that we have. We have a ton of them. And guys, Steve, Kaylee, David, thank you all so much for a really engaging and informative webinar. It was a great time. Thanks so much for everything that you guys did today. And I'd also like to thank the audience for joining us. And again, check out DevOps.com for future webinars, and I guess that's about it. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.